let it be known that Jake does not want to do it in my ring. So I'm gonna come over and I'm gonna beat him in his own game in boxing.
You think Mike pulls it off? You think Mike? Are you familiar with Platinum
really,
Perry?
no, I've never seen Mike Perry fight. Isn't he a welterweight or something?
Well, he fought in the UFC at 170, but in bare knuckle he's fought at 185, and this is a cruiserweight fight.
And what's the fight at?
Cruiserweight.
200 pounds.
Yes.
He's got absolutely no chance.
Champion. He's the face of bare knuckle. Come on. Have you seen this guy bare knuckle?
Ariel, this is you told me Francis Ngannou was going to beat Anthony Joshua.
And I just said
stop falling in love. Stop falling in love with your UFC fighters and let you know. But look, I don't know Mike Perry, but I know apparently he's a tough man. Obviously, he is a tough man.
Yeah.
So I wish him all the best.
Let's let it be known that Jake does not want to do it in my ring, so I'm going to come over. And I'm going to beat him in his own game. And Boxing Pros have revealed their pick for the Jake Paul versus Mike Perry fight. Although Eddie Hearn isn't familiar with Mike Perry, he understands that the Beck star will have a difficult night on July 20th. When he faces Jake Paul, when asked about the fight during an appearance on the MMA Hour, Hearn said that Paul had a significant size advantage over Perry. Therefore, he didn't think Perry had much of a chance. Hearn mentioned that he had never seen Mike Perry fight, questioning if Perry was a welterweight or around 200 pounds. He asserted that Perry had absolutely no chance against Paul. You think Mike pulls it off, you think Mike, Are you familiar with I've never seen Mike Perry fight. Isn't he a welterweight or something? Well, he fought in the UFC at 170. But in bare knuckle, he's fought at 185. And this is a cruiserweight fight. What's the fight at cruiserweight 200 pounds? Yes. She got absolutely no chance. Perry had grown accustomed to skepticism as a knockout specialist in the UFC's welterweight division. He delivered numerous unforgettable performances, yet failed to achieve lasting success, exiting the promotion in 2021. With a modest 7-8 record, little did anyone foresee that his departure from the UFC would ignite a new chapter of triumph in combat sports. In 2022, the gritty realm of bare-knuckle boxing beckoned, and Perry answered the call, stepping into the Beck arena. His debut was a thunderous victory over the infamous Ultimate Fighter competitor Julian Lane. Perry continued his rampage-notching wins against Bellator standout Michael Venom Pagey and former UFC champions Luke Rockhold and Eddie Alvarez. His latest triumph over Thiago Alves only fueled his momentum, propelling him into the spotlight and now into a high-stakes boxing bout against the notorious Paul Perry, known for his versatility across various weight divisions in BAFE, is stepping up to 200 pounds for his upcoming bout against Paul, renowned as the problem child. Jake Paul has a track record of triumphs over notably smaller adversaries, among them former UFC luminaries like Nate Diaz, Tyron Woodley, and Van Askren. Here made light of earlier forecasts gone wrong with Ariel Helwani, presenter of MMA Hour. Hearn told Ariel that he had predicted Francis Ngannou would defeat Anthony Joshua, cautioning against favoring UFC fighters. He admitted he didn't know much about Mike Perry, but acknowledged Perry's reputation as a tough individual. Hearn wished Perry all the best in his endeavors. He's the face of bare knuckle. Come on, have you seen Baby Ariel? This is you told me Francis and G was going to be Joseph. And I just said, stop falling in love with your UFC fighters. And let you know, but look, I don't know Mike Perry. But I know apparently he's a tough man, obviously is a tough man, yeah, so I wish him all the best. Due to their shared history, Hearn might find himself with ample motivation to oppose Paul. Previously collaborators, they joined forces to hype the eagerly awaited April 30th showdown between Paul's Amandas, under Most Valuable Promotions, and Hearn's Katie Taylor of Matchroom Boxing, and are still collaborating for their November 15th rematch. However, Paul later leveled accusations against Hearn, alleging that he manipulated the outcome of that bout, a contentious split decision victory for Taylor. Hearn filed a defamation case against Paul in response to that charge, and it is still pending. During a recent visit to Puerto Rico, Hearn set aside any lingering drama for a cordial encounter with Paul just before the June 15th Liam Perro versus Subriel Matias event. Moreover, Hearn mentioned that while having dinner at the hotel where he was staying, which incidentally is where Jake lives on the resort, he felt a tap on his shoulder. He turned around and saw Jake. Hearn noted that Jake seemed pleasant during their encounter. They had a brief chat during which Hearn invited Jake to the show the following day. Hearn remarked that there are still unresolved issues between them, but he remains open to having conversations. I actually bumped into Jake in Puerto Rico. It's quite funny. Oh, I was having dinner in the hotel that I was staying at is actually where he lives on the result. And I was just having dinner and I felt a tap on my shoulder. And I turn around, it was Jake. Wow, so how'd that go? Yeah, all right. He seemed quite pleasant. Just had a little chat, said you're welcome to the show tomorrow. And that was it really. So the hatchet's been buried. I mean, we still got issues. Oh, okay. But I'm always open for a check. However, George Masvidal thinks Mike Perry has what it takes to stop Jake Paul from stopping the UFC's first ever BMF champion. Ion wasn't exactly thrilled about Paul's planned boxing bout against Mike Tyson on July 20th. Given Paul's youth at 27 years old, compared to Tyson, the former heavyweight champion, who is turning 58 soon this month. Nevertheless, the match has been delayed till later this year as Tyson had to pull out due to a flare-up of an ulcer on the same date. Paul will still compete in a bout in Tampa, Florida, against Mike Perry. Masvidal told MMA Mania Alex Bunin about the matchup. I like it a lot more than the Tyson fight. He's having health complications. I wasn't motivated to see that fight. I probably wouldn't have seen that fight. But the Perry fight, I'll definitely be tuning in. I'll be watching that fight. Masvidal's take on Paul versus Perry resonated widely across the combat sports community. At 32, Perry showed unwavering determination, transitioning from Beckf in his prime, opting for bare-knuckle combat over the familiar 4-0 UFC gloves. When Perry fights the 9-1 Paul this month, it will be the first time since his disastrous boxing debut in 2015 that he has donned cushioned gloves. Masvidal believes that while the Beck title holder may be inferior in pure boxing skill and technique, Platinum will rely on intangibles to prevail, aiming to score the biggest win and paycheck of his fighting career. By taking Paul's head off, Massel analyzed the matchup between Paul and Perry. I think I lean towards Jake the first 3 rounds. I think with his boxing, his range, he'll be able to keep him up. But I think after that it becomes a dogfight, and Perry's going to get his hand raised. I just feel it, man. He could break him down by the 4th or 5th round. Jake's going to be tired from bouncing around and running. He's going to have to fight. And he's going to find out who the bigger dog is. Modal mentioned that he believes Mike Perry is willing to take risks and understands his own abilities, particularly in absorbing punches. Masvidal suggested that Perry could use his ability to defend himself with larger gloves, get into the fight, and begin delivering powerful punches. He predicted that mentally Perry would break down Jake Paul, envisioning Perry gradually pressuring him after the 4th round and potentially causing Paul to quit or knocking him out. Paul has faced adversity and gone the distance with UFC stars in the past. However, the problem child might encounter a challenge with Perry, known for his relentless tenacity, both inside and outside the octagon. Daniel Cormier also predicted Perry to beat Paul. He said it seems as now Paul is ready to take on riskier competition. Because for anything that you call him, you got to call Mike Perry a fighter. He will fight in any arena created because he ain't afraid of. Daniel Cormier's analysis suggests that Paul may struggle against Perry's boxing prowess, potentially marking Paul's 2nd professional boxing loss. The boxing world has frequently criticized Paul for padding his record with bouts against lower-tier opponents. Initially, the 27-year-old squared off against retired UFC stars to rack up wins, while he later shifted to facing legitimate boxers. Many fans argued that his opponents lacked a skill level to truly challenge him. Critics in the boxing community have often accused Paul of inflating his record by selecting lower-tier opponents at the beginning of his career. The 27-year-old fought retired UFC stars to accumulate victories. Although he eventually began facing genuine boxers, many fans contended that these challengers did not possess the necessary skill to truly test him. Cormier said Mike Perry will fight Paul. He will fight him on the street, in a cage in a boxing ring, or in a bare-knuckle arena. This kid is a fighter. This is the most exciting fight I've had for Jake Paul. But I believe he gets beat on July 20th. The buzz surrounding the upcoming encounter is already substantial, adding to the excitement. Cormier's prediction has sparked debates among fans, with many analyzing the strengths and weaknesses of each fighter to decide if they agree with the former champ's view. Nevertheless, former UFC champion Sean Strickland believes they should have settled it without the gloves. Strickland, a former middleweight champion, recently participated in an interview with MMA Crazy. During the interview, he expressed his admiration for Mike Perry and shared his happiness for Perry's success. Strickland said, "I mean, it is just a clown show, you know. I am actually a big fan of Mike Perry. I am so happy for his success. I hope he gets a bag with this." The younger Paul brother was then criticized by Strickland, who said that the bout should have been fought bare knuckle because he was up against a welterweight. He said, "But again, you know, Jake Paul, you're fighting a welterweight. Maybe if it was bare knuckle, it would be cooler. But it's like me challenging a soccer player to an MMA fight. It just ain't the same, dude." Since departing from the UFC, Mike Perry has carved out a reputation in bare knuckle.